The heir of the Prescott family traveled all the way from Northcrest City to the Riverside Slums searching for the person who had saved his life. My younger sister locked me in my room, put on my white dress, and, with a face that resembled mine by nearly 70%, rushed into Ethan Prescott's arms. "Ethan, you finally came for me," she said. After that, despite his family's objections, Ethan insisted on marrying my sister from the slums. People praised him as a champion of pure, unwavering love. On their wedding day, my sister looked at me with a taunting smirk, her eyes filled with provocation. In this life, I'm the one marrying into a wealthy family. Inside, I felt calm, without the slightest ripple. After living one more lifetime, I realized that real 4-9's gold was much more trustworthy than acting in some melodramatic romance. "Sis, you enjoyed enough blessings in the last life," Lily told me. "This time, it's my turn." Lily locked me up again. I heard her speaking in a low, excited voice, and from the way she sounded, I immediately knew she had been reborn too. In my previous life, I had accidentally saved Ethan Prescott, who had been kidnapped by human traffickers. It was pitch black that night, and with his ankle injured, I carried him on my back through mountain roads the entire night until I reached the police station near town. I was the only heir the Prescott family's missing son had ever tried to find after he returned home. Ethan said he wanted to repay my life-saving grace with marriage. I refused. I grew up in the Riverside Slums, while Ethan was born into the most powerful family in Northcrest City. Our worlds were as far apart as clouds and mud. But Ethan insisted that if he didn't marry me, he wouldn't marry anyone. Because of me, he disobeyed his parents and refused the arranged marriage with the wealthy young lady they had chosen for him. In the end, he severed ties with his family. I wavered back then. Only later did I understand that a single heartbeat of a rich, young master could destroy the entire life of an ordinary girl. Thinking back now still chills me to the core. Just like before, when Ethan reunited with his lifesaver after years apart, his eyes were full of deep affection as he took the initiative to confess that he wanted to be with me. But unlike me in my past life, Lily didn't reject him. She agreed immediately, overjoyed. When my parents learned about it, they acted as if they had struck gold, practically worshiping her. My father, flushed red from excitement and alcohol, told her, "Lily, you're incredible. You've changed the fate of the Lane family." Lily's face shone with pride and desire. That night, she came to my room and warned me softly, "Sis, don't even think about stealing Ethan from me. In this life, he's already chosen me. You don't stand a chance. He said he's about to convince his parents, and he'll bring me home as his wife soon." I looked at her coldly and said nothing. In this life, all I wanted was to stay as far away from Ethan Prescott as possible. To marry Lily, just like in my past life, Ethan publicly played the role of a righteous champion of pure love. Before the media, he declared, "I will not marry Olivia Torres. Being born into a family like ours is a tragedy, but I will never bow to fate. I will be with the woman I love." The media exploded with headlines. The Prescott family and the Torres family immediately became the focus of public attention and humiliation. Everything was unfolding exactly the same as before. With one foot already inside the wealthy world, Lily quit the job she had just received and spent every day learning how to behave like a refined socialite, studying fashion pairing, luxury brands, skincare routines. She had already begun living as a future elite wife. At that time, Ethan came over to visit. I was about to go out when I ran into him. Since being reborn, this was the first time I had seen him again. Memories from the past surged within me before settling into stillness like a quiet lake. When Ethan saw me, he stopped. Lily and I were fraternal twins, so he immediately recognized familiar features on my face. Before he could say anything, Lily quickly wrapped her arm around his. "Ethan, you're here." And as she walked past me, she didn't forget to shoot me a warning glare. Ethan Prescott's gaze swept over me from head to toe, and a faint hint of confusion appeared between his brows. Before he could say anything, Lily Lane gritted her teeth, then suddenly put on a sweet smile as she stepped forward and clung to my arm. "This is my sister, Ethan. You should call her Sis, too." But Ethan's eyes stayed fixed on my face, as if he were searching for something buried deep inside. In those dark eyes of his, it felt as if a pale hand were tearing through the black veil covering his memories, revealing fragments from our past life piece by piece. I tightened my fists, my heart racing in fear that he might actually remember something. In our previous life, after we got married, Ethan and I once shared a period of sweetness, but I wasn't foolish enough to believe such sweetness could last forever. I had tried so hard to fit into his world, yet I could never keep up with his pace. I could see clearly that his relatives, and even his friends, all treated me like a Cinderella who had wandered into a world where she didn't belong. They didn't need to do anything. Just a careless remark, or even just a glance, was enough to make me feel so ashamed I wanted to disappear. Back then, I once told Ethan that I wanted to pursue a master's degree. Before Ethan ever found me, I had already planned to take the graduate entrance exam. According to my original plan, I would spend a year studying and working part-time so that even if my parents objected, I could still decide my own future. But Ethan held a grand wedding for me, took me on his private jet, and brought me everywhere for our honeymoon. He made me temporarily set aside my plan for graduate school. He said, "Graduate school is exhausting. Now that you're my wife, you don't need to struggle like that anymore. I'd feel bad for you." After the wedding, every time I brought up studying again, he always used the same excuse. He even came to the learning center I enrolled in, just to drag me home. At that time, he truly couldn't bear to let me suffer even the slightest hardship. He only wanted to place the best things in the world before me. Until one day, that sweetness was crushed. "Lisa, I give you so much money every month. Where does it all go? Can't you at least put some effort into improving yourself?" I heard disgust and irritation in his voice. In that moment, I understood. I had lost the bet. Yes, from the moment I agreed to marry Ethan Prescott, I had gambled my entire life. He began hiring etiquette tutors for me, signing me up for elite lady courses, telling me to shop, to learn beauty routines, to learn how to shine. He wanted to shape me into someone who matched their world. He once said he loved my strength, how, even though my small body clearly couldn't bear his weight, I still carried him through the night to the police station when I saved him. But now, he wanted to turn me into a delicate doll, locked inside the golden cage he had built with his own hands for others to admire. If anyone pointed out a single flaw in me, he would reshape me, polish me, turn me into the ideal figure in his world, just so he could hold his head high. I kept trying, even though the person I tried to become was no longer me. Yet his family and friends still didn't bother to look at me, not even once. Every time I looked in the mirror, I felt like I no longer recognized myself. Ethan never knew that I relied on sleeping pills just to fall asleep every night. Nor did he know I had to meet with a therapist regularly. 5 years into our marriage, he suddenly said to me, "Lisa, how about we have a baby?" I looked at him, unsure how to react. He frowned slightly. "You've been in our family for 5 years already." My stomach still showed no sign of change, and Ethan said he was really running out of excuses with his family. "My parents still haven't fully accepted you. You should try to improve yourself a little. Lisa, I can't keep spoiling you like this forever. Tomorrow I'll invite a traditional medicine doctor to take care of your health. Even if our first child is a girl, it doesn't matter to me. But you know how the older generation thinks. They always want both a son and a daughter. The more grandchildren, the better." I didn't let him finish. I immediately cut him off. At that moment, I told him there was nothing wrong with my body. It was simply because all these years, I had been taking birth control pills. The pills had no side effects, and if I wanted to get pregnant, all I needed to do was stop taking them. But I didn't want to have children. That was the first time Ethan Prescott ever got angry and raised his voice at me. For the previous 5 years, everything between had been like a slow-burning fuse, and now it finally exploded. "Lisa, back then, just to be with you, I didn't even hesitate to cut ties with my own family. For years, I've given you the best food and clothes, hired countless people to serve you, and never let you lift a finger. Yet you refuse to give me even one child? Lisa, I really misjudged you. They were right. You were never worthy of me. You're just someone who climbed up from the bottom of society, blinded by money and power. Did you really think that just by leaping onto a high branch, you could turn into a phoenix? Let me tell you, without me, Lisa, you are nothing. I looked at the man who once swore he'd love me for the rest of his life, who once promised he'd treat me well forever, and I couldn't help laughing. I had lost so completely that I had nothing left to hold on to. So I told him, Ethan Prescott, let's get a divorce. Ethan, say hello. Lily's voice suddenly rang out, pulling me out of the memories of my past life. I shuddered slightly. Ethan had already regained his usual calm composure as he said evenly, Hello, I'm Ethan Prescott. I quietly let out a breath of relief. Ethan hadn't been reborn. How could he remember anything from our previous life? And even if he did, so what? I would never walk that same path with him again. I smiled gently and greeted him. Lily immediately grabbed Ethan's arm and dragged him off to find my parents. How anxious and terrified must she be? It was clear that deep down, she knew everything she stole, everything she lied to obtain, could crumble the moment she loosened her grip. I didn't look at them anymore and left the house. I went to the city library and borrowed a few books. Only when I was sure Ethan had already left did I return home. But as soon as I reached the gate, I heard his voice. My parents still don't agree to let me marry you, Lily. For now, you'll have to endure a little. Then Lily's gentle, understanding voice followed. As long as I can be with you, I don't mind any hardship. But the very next moment, her words betrayed her true thoughts. Actually, you could try pushing back against them. They're your parents, they won't really abandon you. Ethan seemed to pause. I already pushed back. Didn't you hear what I said to the media? What do you mean? That I should? For example, you could go on a hunger strike, or threaten them, you know? If it doesn't work, you could even cut ties completely. Right after she said that, Lily quickly corrected herself. Of course, I'm not hoping you'll fall out with your parents. I really want your family to accept us. That way, we can be together forever. Ethan laughed softly. I understand. Standing at the door, I quietly laughed to myself. In my previous life, Ethan did exactly the same thing to be with me. Public declarations first, then a hunger strike. In the end, he even threatened to sever ties with his family. But his parents only had one son, raised since childhood, as the heir of the Prescott family. How could they ever truly let him walk away? So before a week had passed, Ethan was called home. His parents eventually compromised and accepted me as their daughter-in-law. I still remember clearly that the day before the wedding, Ethan's mother asked to meet me one-on-one. She was over 50, yet she looked barely in her 30s, elegant, refined, carrying herself like someone born into privilege. As she sat across from me, she hadn't even spoken yet, but it already felt like an invisible wall stood between us. In that moment, I realized that she, Ethan, and I would probably never belong to the same world. But Ethan had done too much for me. If I backed down then, I would be nothing but a coward. It would have been a betrayal. So I straightened my back, looked directly into her eyes, and refused to show even the slightest fear. She only smiled faintly and said, Lisa, if you've truly decided to marry Ethan, then I hope you won't regret it. Her voice carried no threat at all, yet it sent a cold chill down my spine. Only much later, when I lived through what felt like descending into hell, did I remember that moment. Remember how confidently I had sat there, and I had no choice but to admire her. She had already seen through the nature of my marriage with Ethan. She had warned me. In truth, I had warned myself too. But I still chose to gamble, and I paid for it with my entire life. When my parents returned home, they had only gone out to buy a few groceries. We all went inside together. I simply nodded at Ethan and went straight into my room. Our house had terrible soundproofing, yet there wasn't much more said outside. In the end, Ethan didn't stay for dinner. He claimed he had to rush back to continue convincing his parents. But I knew very well it was because he couldn't stand the living conditions in my home. Forget Ethan. If I dragged a random stranger off the street into this house, anyone would assume it was a slum. Even more so for someone raised in luxury like him. It had been the same in my past life. He said he loved me, but I saw clearly that he never liked the environment I grew up in. Just like he once said, I was a beautiful flower that bloomed out of ruins. The flower was what he loved, not the ruin that nurtured it. As soon as Ethan left, Lily Lane walked into my room. Were you standing outside earlier, listening in on me and Ethan? She demanded. I sat down at my small table, opened the library book I had borrowed, and replied calmly, "Don't worry. Ethan has already chosen you. I'm not going to fight you for him." But the calmer I acted, the more panicked Lily became. Those who possess something will always fear the wolves lurking around them. She saw me as the wolf, but she never once questioned whether Ethan was truly a treasure or just a burning coal. I didn't blame her. Even I had to live an entire lifetime to understand that. "Lisa, what exactly are you planning?" she asked. Before I could respond, she continued sharply, "I don't care what schemes you have. I'm telling you now, if you dare try to take Ethan from me, I will never forgive you." I let out a soft laugh. "Why do you think I would try to take Ethan Prescott from you?" "Because." Lily stared at me, watching every tiny change in my expression. "Are you?" What she really wanted to ask was, "Are you reborn too?" I didn't mind letting her know. "You're right. I'm just like you." But instead of calming down, Lily's expression grew even more guarded. "And yet you still refuse to admit it," she snapped. Then she tried to threaten me. "Lisa Lane, you've killed me once. You can kill me a second time," Lily said as she slowly stepped closer, wearing a sinister smile. "Besides, now I have Ethan. Killing you this time would be as easy as lifting a hand. I won't risk my life again." I replied, "If you really feel uneasy, I can leave." I picked up the library book I had borrowed. "I'm preparing for my graduate school exams. I don't have time to fight you over Ethan." Lily looked at me as if she couldn't understand any of it. "You really don't intend to compete with me for Ethan? Why? Something you once had in a past life. Why does it seem so worthless to you now?" I answered directly, "If I said I won't fight you, then I won't." Lily threw back one last line, "You'd better mean it," and left the room. I watched her go, and from the way she carried herself, it was obvious. She was desperate to marry into the Prescott family, desperate to become a wealthy young lady, so desperate she didn't even bother thinking it through. If I were given a second chance at life, why would I choose the same path again? I had even hinted it to her already, hadn't I? I smiled silently, lowered my gaze, and continued reading. I didn't know exactly what Lily told my parents, but eventually, even my mother gently advised me not to get involved. I laughed, too tired to explain anything. "Mom, I'm preparing for graduate school. I don't have time to think about anything else. You, Dad, and Lily, don't worry." My mom moved her lips, clearly wanting to say more, but after a moment's hesitation, she only nodded. That might be for the best. In my past life, after graduating from college, I also wanted to pursue a master's degree. I had even applied for tuition assistance, but because I married Ethan Prescott, all of my plans were interrupted. In this life, I didn't just want to get a master's degree, I planned to study abroad. For days, I had been busy with all kinds of documents and paperwork. At the beginning of next month, I would be able to leave. On the morning of my departure, I dragged my suitcase toward the door, only to run into Ethan Prescott, who was just arriving. He froze, his dark eyes settling on me, and for some reason, I felt suddenly uneasy. Ethan truly wasn't reborn, otherwise he wouldn't have been fooled by Lily so easily. But the way he looked at me each time made it seem like he remembered everything from our previous life. I subconsciously tightened my grip on my suitcase handle. "Ethan, Lily is inside. You should go in," I said. Ethan slowly walked toward me. "Where are you going?" I hadn't even opened my mouth yet when Lily came running out. I exhaled quietly. She rushed over and wrapped herself around Ethan's arm as if making a public declaration of ownership, then shot me a hostile glare. She was growing more possessive by the day. "I'm leaving," I said as I walked past them. Behind me, I could still hear Ethan asking, "Is your sister planning to move out?" "She's preparing for her graduate school exams," Lily replied sweetly. "She said it's too crowded at home, so it's inconvenient." "Why are you here, Ethan?" she added. He chuckled. "My parents agreed." I had already walked far down the street, yet I could still hear Lily's excited scream echoing behind me. And I headed to the airport and boarded my flight. Lily had finally gotten what she wanted, to marry Ethan Prescott. And I would finally set foot in the school of my dreams. Both of us had our own bright futures ahead. But being alone in a foreign country wasn't easy, especially when I wasn't there to travel but to study, and my savings were far from comfortable. Outside of class, I began working multiple part-time jobs. One day, while I was working at a cafe, I unexpectedly ran into Vera Nolan. She was the heiress of the Nolan family, the girl the Prescotts had originally arranged for Ethan to marry. In my past life, after Ethan publicly pleaded love before the media, the Nolan family canceled the engagement. I first met Vera Nolan in the 4th year of my marriage to Ethan. She had just returned from abroad and officially joined the family business to begin getting involved. Her family worked closely with Ethan Prescott in business. One time, I received a phone call from Vera Nolan. She said, "Lisa, Ethan is completely drunk. Could you come pick him up?" I went. By the time I arrived, Ethan was already slumped over, too intoxicated to know anything. Vera gave me a gentle smile. "Since you're here, I'll head out first. Goodbye." She didn't say why she was with Ethan, nor why he had drunk so much. On the way home, I looked at the drunken man beside me and suddenly heard him mumble, "Maybe it was a mistake from the very beginning. From the very beginning." Even until now, I don't know whether Ethan was talking about us or something else entirely. I pulled myself out of the memories from my past life and walked forward with a smile. "Hi there." Out of instinct, since we were from the same country, the words slipped out in Chinese. Vera laughed. Her smile was gentle and soothing, just like in my past life. "You're Chinese too?" she asked while ordering a latte. We chatted a bit, and I soon learned that we had both applied to the same university. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom telling me to come home for Ethan and Lily's wedding. I glanced at Vera, then replied to my mother, "I can't. I'm already in the UK." Only then did my family realize I had gone abroad. But no one said anything more. Vera's voice sounded from beside me. "Sorry if it's a bit abrupt. Do you know Lily Lane?" I didn't hide anything. "She's my sister. We're fraternal twins." "No wonder you two look so alike," Vera said with a light smile. "My former fiancé canceled our engagement because of your sister," she added calmly. "My ex-fiancé was Ethan Prescott." I knew that, but I didn't know what I was supposed to say. Congratulate her? Pretend it didn't matter? She laughed. "I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously." Her eyes curved as she took a sip of her coffee. Vera started coming to the cafe nearly every day, and gradually we became friends. Later, when the owner sold the apartment I was renting, and I suddenly had nowhere to stay, she took me to her place. She even said, "Make sure you pay rent properly, okay?" I could tell she only said that, so I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. We both passed our graduate school entrance exams and studied together for 2 years. I never went back to my home country. My family called once or twice in the beginning, then stopped contacting me altogether. I didn't hold much affection for them anyway. Some blood ties simply can't bridge the distance between hearts. Families are like that. Such things can't be forced. On the night we graduated from graduate school, Vera and I went to a bar to celebrate. We partied until dawn before returning home. I had just gotten ready to lie down when Vera's phone rang. Exhausted, I immediately fell asleep, but after answering the call, she shook me awake. "What now?" I mumbled, sitting up, voice hoarse. Vera collapsed onto the bed beside me, her eyes full of misery. "Lisa, my parents want me to come home for an arranged marriage. Even wealthy families have their suffering." I had seen plenty of things like this when I lived with the Prescotts in my past life. I asked, "You don't want to go through with the arranged marriage?" Vera rolled her eyes. "Who wants an arranged marriage?" "Honestly, I should thank your sister. If she hadn't married Ethan Prescott first, the one who would have ended up with him would have been me." I patted her shoulder. "Then get some sleep. We'll head back home the day after tomorrow." Vera frowned tightly. "Heartless. Truly heartless." I laughed. "I said I'd help you." She looked at me suspiciously. "Help me how? By marrying me yourself?" I rubbed my temples. "Your parents want you to marry for the sake of the family. They think only through marriage can you bring benefits to them. But I can help you show them that you are the greatest asset they have." Then I told her my plan. Vera Nolan was so moved, she suddenly threw her arms around me and lifted my face to plant rapid kisses all over my cheek. "Ah, Lisa, I love you so much." I winced and wiped my cheek. "Honestly, I'm doing this for myself too. But right now, I do have a plan. I just don't have the funds." "I have money. I have money." Vera cut me off excitedly. "We're seriously perfect for each other, meant to be, destined by the universe." She lunged forward and kissed my cheek several more times. I thought back to my previous life. After Vera returned to the country, she had also tried starting her own business. I remembered the time she called me to pick up Ethan when he was drunk. The next day, she called again and said, "Ethan and I have a business cooperation. Last night we met to discuss work. Nothing inappropriate, but I felt I should clarify. That was the only time they ever contacted each other." Later, I heard the project in her hands had been stolen by someone else, and with no other options, she eventually accepted the arranged marriage her family decided for her. But this life would not be the same, because now she had me. For the past 2 years, I had been devouring every bit of knowledge I could access, all for the life I wanted. The harder I worked, the freer I became, and my efforts finally gave me enough confidence and courage to take control of my life. When I stepped back onto home soil, I inhaled deeply. I had finally returned. "Hurry up." Vera grabbed my hand and pulled me into the car. "I'm taking you to meet my parents." She didn't just hate arranged marriage, she simply didn't want to get married at all. Honestly, I now felt the same way. Her parents agreed to give her one chance. If she could accomplish something on her own, she wouldn't have to enter an arranged marriage. After leaving the Nolan household, I thought for a moment and decided I should visit my own home too. My family had long moved out of the Riverside Slums. They were living in a villa now. I'd known this from the few phone calls we exchanged before I left the country. But back then, every time we talked, they never stopped praising Lily Lane, saying she was the one who changed their fate. My mother even said, "You studied yourself into stupidity, Lisa. What's the point of studying so much? When you come home, you'll just be working under your sister, a rich young lady now. Lisa, come home. Lily and Ethan will introduce you to some rich bachelor. Maybe not as rich as the Prescotts, but rich enough to keep you comfortable. Why bother studying so hard and suffering like this?" Whenever she talked like that, I simply smiled without replying. My mother truly believed that marrying into a wealthy family was paradise. I only brought a few small gifts from the UK, and the moment I stepped inside the house, I heard loud crying. My mother's sharp voice echoed through the house. "Divorce? Ethan really said he wants a divorce?" My footsteps froze. In my past life, my marriage with Ethan lasted 5 years. I always assumed Lily would know better than I did how to hold on to him. I never imagined her marriage would only last 3 years. I stepped inside. "Mom, Dad, I'm home." The noise in the living room stopped instantly. My parents looked anxious, but when they saw me, they didn't show any happiness or surprise. I simply smiled and said, "These are gifts I brought back from the UK." Lily suddenly rushed forward, snatched the gifts from my hands, and threw them hard to the floor. Tears welled up in her eyes as she glared at me like she wanted to tear me apart. "It was you, wasn't it, Lisa? It was you." To be honest, to be accused by Lily the moment I returned, she flew at me in a frenzy, shouting curses. I stood there stunned for a moment until she screamed hysterically, "Ethan said he wants a divorce, and the moment he says that, you suddenly return home. You two must have been sneaking around behind my back, right?" My mother instantly rushed over. "Lisa, is that true?" I bent down, picked up the gift she had thrown, and placed it back on the table. Calmly, I said, "Don't worry, Mom, I may have studied a lot, but not to the point of seducing my own brother-in-law." Lily still didn't believe me. She practically lunged at me, demanding, "Then why did you come back at this exact time?" I looked at her, tired of the nonsense. "I came back now because I just finished my graduate program, now." The madness in Lily's expression faded slightly, but her face was streaked with tears, ruined makeup, and desperation. "You really didn't contact Ethan?" I let out a cold laugh. "Why would you think I'd contact him at all?" Hearing that, Lily stiffened, then suddenly looked as if she had figured something out. You knew, didn't you? That's why in this life, you didn't try to steal Ethan from me." She suddenly burst out laughing and pointed at me. Lisa, so your life in your past life wasn't glamorous at all." My mother panicked. "Lily, what nonsense are you saying? Past life? What past life? Don't scare me like that." I turned away. "Mom, Dad, I'm leaving." My mom hurried after me. "Where are you going? You just got home. Stay a few days." I shook my head. "I'll be very busy soon. When I have time, I'll visit." Just as I reached the villa's doorway, Lily came chasing after me. Lisa, don't leave. Tell me, was your life like this in your past life? I looked at her coldly. Lily looked half crazed, but I didn't know exactly what her life had been like after she married Ethan. Still, I could guess. Lily, I said, my tone icy, do you remember? What was I doing in our past life when you drove your car straight at me? She seemed genuinely trying to recall. I told her I was pulling my suitcase, getting ready to leave the Prescott estate, because I had asked Ethan for a divorce. Lily fell silent. In that life, I continued, right after I said, Ethan Prescott, let's get a divorce, I packed everything I had brought with me into a small suitcase and walked out of the Prescott family's villa. After I'd gone a short distance, I saw you speeding toward me in a red sports car. In your eyes that day, there was nothing but madness and jealousy carved straight into the bone. I remembered widening my eyes at the twisted, deranged smile on her face, and the next moment, everything was swallowed by darkness. Lily had always envied me for being able to marry into wealth. In the past life, she constantly clung to me and Ethan, begging us to introduce her to some rich young man, but nobody ever took interest in her. She had no education, her looks weren't particularly striking, there was simply nothing noteworthy. Even if she was Ethan's sister-in-law, wealthy men weren't stupid enough to marry her just to cling to the Prescott family. Besides, at that time, the Lane family had long cut ties with us. Everyone in the upper class knew this. So in the end, Lily could only marry an ordinary office worker. Of course, her husband couldn't buy her Hermes or Porter bags. And every time she saw me wearing luxury brands, jewelry, getting driven around by a chauffeur, her eyes were always filled with that same feral, maddening jealousy. In the end, she was devoured by her own jealousy. She went crazy screaming at me, "You were only born 12 minutes before me. Why is everything always better for you?" When she drove that car straight at me, I saw her laughing hysterically, her lips mouthing, "Lisa, go to hell." On quiet nights, I once thought about making Lily pay with her life, but I didn't want to dirty my own hands. In this life, being able to live the way I want without anyone disturbing me is already a blessing far greater than I deserve. I didn't want to ruin that peace. So I warned her, whatever happens between you and Ethan is none of my business. But Lily, remember this. I spared your life once. If you still don't know your place, I'll take back everything you owe me, including the debt from our past life. I pushed her aside and stepped into the taxi waiting outside. Vera had already prepared a place for me to stay. Not long after that, the company that Vera and I founded was officially established under the Nolan family's corporate umbrella. The first project we received, coincidentally, was a collaboration with Ethan Prescott. I was the representative sent to sign the contract. When Ethan saw me, unmistakable surprise flashed across his face. He kept looking at me as if he wanted to ask something, but now I could hold my composure effortlessly. "Hello, Mr. Prescott," I greeted with a calm smile. Ethan withdrew his probing gaze and returned the smile politely. We began discussing business. It was obvious he still lacked experience. Throughout the meeting, he could only follow my pace passively, even though I was supposedly a newcomer to the business world. Still, the negotiation went smoothly. "If you're satisfied, please sign here, Mr. Prescott." I handed him the contract. Ethan stared at me silently for a moment before lowering his head to sign and stamp it. I thought about reminding him to read through everything again, but in the end, I didn't. I was a businesswoman now. "I look forward to working with you, Mr. Prescott." I stood and extended my hand. I was just about to leave when Ethan suddenly called after me. "Miss Lane, He hesitated. "Have we met somewhere before?" I turned back. "Mr. Prescott, you really are forgetful. I'm Lily Lane's older sister." He shook his head. "I don't mean that. From the first moment I saw you, I felt strangely familiar." I smiled. "Maybe my face is just easy to remember." Ethan stepped closer. He was tall, his shadow falling over me, blocking out the light. 3 years ago, I would have panicked, but now I met his eyes steadily, lips slightly curved. "Is there anything else, Mr. Prescott?" Ethan was silent for a long time, then shook his head. "No, let me walk you out." Suddenly, the office door burst open without warning. "Ma'am." Ethan's assistant rushed forward, trying to stop Lily Lane. But the moment Lily saw me, she was like a wild bull seeing a red flag. She completely lost her mind. "Lisa, you filthy woman," she screamed. "You lied to me. She charged straight at me. Ethan moved instantly, blocking her, grabbing her wrist and flinging her aside. His voice was icy. "Lily Lane, this is the company. Don't cause a scene here." But Lily still tried to lunge at me. "You slut, you're seducing my husband. You deserve to die. I'll kill you." A sharp slap cracked through the room. Lily finally froze. She held her cheek, staring at Ethan with disbelief. You hit me?" Even Ethan looked startled for a second, as if he couldn't believe he had done it. Then he straightened, his expression returning to its usual coldness. "Get out, Lily." Crying hysterically, Lily ran out of the office. Ethan pressed a tired hand to his forehead, let out a quiet sigh, then turned to me. "I'm sorry." I looked at him coldly. I didn't feel the slightest relief just because he hit Lily this time. In our past life, he never raised a hand to me, even when I was drowning in misery. Instead, it was Lily who finally ripped away the last illusions I had about who Ethan truly was. But now, fortunately, he and I no longer had anything to do with each other. "Mr. Prescott, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first." I walked toward the door, but then I heard his voice behind me, low, heavy, and tinged with helplessness. "I'm planning to divorce her." He continued mumbling. "She's changed. She's become greedy, obsessed with status. I can't see any trace of the girl who once saved my life. But she shouldn't have become like this." He slumped onto the sofa, looking even more exhausted and defeated, as if desperately searching for somewhere to pour out his emotions. Watching him like that, I couldn't help letting out a cold laugh. Ethan snapped his head up, startled. "Ethan Prescott," I said. "If she were still strong, still indifferent to material things, still barefaced and simple, wouldn't you look down on her the same way you used to look down on me? Because in our past life, I had been exactly that." And he still grew disgusted. Men are always like that, eating from one bowl while staring into another. A flicker of confusion crossed Ethan's eyes. Of course, he couldn't possibly understand what I meant, and I had no intention of explaining. "Goodbye, Mr. Prescott." After I stepped out of Prescott Corporation's headquarters and was about to get into my car, I heard Lily Lane screeching behind me. "Lisa, you wretched bitch!" She came charging from the side, screaming, "You said you wouldn't fight me, so why did you come back? Why?" Her shrieking drew the attention of everyone nearby. Losing control, she flailed wildly, trying to hit me. I lost patience and shoved her away. Wearing sharp high heels, Lily lost her balance and fell hard to the ground. I looked down at her, my voice cold and arrogant. "Lily Lane, I understand why you think I endured for 3 years just to come back and steal your man. In your mind, everything revolves around men, so you assume everyone must be like you." I leaned closer, my tone cutting. "Let me say this one last time. I'm not fighting you for Ethan, because he's not worth it." Tears streamed down Lily's face, streaking her ruined makeup and making her look utterly pitiful. "What do you mean? Even now you still don't understand?" I gave a faint laugh. "Do you know why I never took revenge on you? Because dirtying my hands for someone like you isn't worth it." Then I dragged out my words, crouching down until we were eye level. "And also, I should be thanking you." Her eyes trembled. "Thanks to you, I got a second chance at life. In this life, I didn't step into that golden cage Ethan built to imprison me. Freedom tastes wonderful, Lily. So yes, thank you." At last, she seemed to understand. "So you planned it from the start. You never intended to fight me for Ethan. You knew what would happen to me if I married him. You intentionally pushed me into that fire pit, didn't you?" She suddenly jumped up, shaking her head frantically. No, it's not a fire pit. I won't divorce. I will never divorce." Then she spun around and ran back into the building. "Ethan, don't divorce me. Ethan, don't leave me." I stood up slowly, watching her figure disappear inside. Everything finally felt settled. I delivered the signed contract to Vera Nolan. Her eyes widened. "He signed that fast?" Hearing that, even I paused for a moment. I'd been so focused on securing the deal that I didn't stop to think about, why did Ethan Prescott sign so easily? Vera set the contract down and stared at me intently. "Hey, I heard from my dad. Ethan and your sister are filing for divorce." I sat down and answered lightly. Vera suddenly looked cautious. "Then why did he sign the contract so willingly? Don't tell me he wants to marry me, because I'm not planning on getting married. And even if I did, I wouldn't take second-hand goods." I burst out laughing. "Relax. She scooted closer. Let me tell you something. The 3 years we were abroad, the Prescott family was basically a non-stop drama series. I'm not trying to badmouth your sister, but she really made a fool of herself in that circle. When she first tried joining the Society Wives group, she actually thought marrying Ethan meant she'd reached the peak. People said she strutted around like some clown who lucked into wealth. She offended half the circle. Do you know what they called her behind her back? The dancing clown. Ethan was humiliated. That's why he decided on divorce. Vera told me a whole string of ridiculous stories about Lily from the Prescott household after marrying Ethan. Honestly, I could have guessed all of it without hearing anything. I shrugged with a faint smile. That's their business. I don't care. Even though I suspected Ethan had his own motives for signing the contract so easily, I couldn't deny that thanks to him, our company's market access suddenly opened up. New projects started flooding in. Vera's father finally relented and stopped forcing her to go on blind dates. When we first registered the company, Vera owned 51% of the shares, while her father held the remaining 49%. One day, Vera suddenly handed me a folder of share transfer documents. Here, take it. I blinked. What is this? The 49% my dad owns. For you. She tossed the folder lightly toward me. I scrambled to catch it. Hey, can you show a little respect for something this valuable? Vera burst out laughing. My dad told me to work seriously with you. He said giving you the shares was his idea, to keep you from running off. I happily accepted. 6 months later, Ethan Prescott and Lily finally finalized their divorce. After half a year of making a scene, Lily had withered down to barely 80 pounds, looking 10 years older. One morning, when I went home to visit my parents, I happened to run into her. The moment she saw me step out of my porter, she let out a mocking laugh. Lisa, which old rich man did you hook this time? I picked up my things and walked inside. I'm not like you, Lily. Ever since my return, my parents had been treating me much more warmly. After learning I'd started my own company, they practically called me every day, begging me to come home for dinner. Truly, familial affection also needed money and status to sustain itself. In this world, only effort and money will never betray me. During dinner, Lily never came downstairs. I glanced at her closed door. Don't mind her, my dad snapped, then immediately turned back to me with a cheerful smile and put food into my bowl. Eat more, Lisa. It's been so long since you've had your mom's cooking. I smiled and nodded. After finishing the meal, I left. I never stayed the night. They were still my parents, and I would stop by if I had time, but I couldn't be close to them. I didn't want to force myself. One day, my mother called me crying, Lisa, come home quickly. Lily wants to sell the house. When I arrived, I learned that after divorcing Ethan, Lily still burned through money like water. It didn't take long for her to spend everything Ethan had given her. With no money left, she tried to sell the house. Except the house was in my parents' name. They refused, so she threatened to hire people to come destroy it. In the end, I had to send people over to intervene before things got out of hand. My parents were furious and kicked Lily out of the house, shouting, "We don't have a daughter like you. From now on, Lisa is our only daughter." I only laughed coldly inside and said nothing. On my way back to the company, I received a call from Ethan Prescott. He said he wanted to meet to discuss work. But when I arrived, what he said instead was, "You always give me this strange sense of familiarity. I've been thinking lately, why did the little girl who saved me back then change so completely? I can't see any trace of her anymore." He looked at me deeply. "The truth is, you were the one who saved me back then, right?" I stood up, my voice frosty. "Mr. Prescott, if you asked me here just to say these things, then I won't be continuing this conversation." I turned and walked out of the tea room. At that exact moment, the roar of an engine exploded behind me. I jerked around, and a horrifyingly familiar scene played out before my eyes. Lily Lane was speeding straight toward us in a red sports car. Exactly like in my previous life. She screamed hysterically, "Lisa, go to hell!" A deafening crash followed as her car slammed into the flower bed. White smoke billowed upward. I fell to the ground, my eyes landing on Ethan Prescott lying unconscious nearby. And in that one split second between life and death, he had thrown himself forward to shield me. He was the one hit by the car and knocked out cold. The ambulance rushed over. Both Ethan and Lily were taken to the hospital. Lily was severely injured, but Ethan regained consciousness quickly. I let out a breath of relief. "Mr. Prescott, you're awake. I'll go call the doctor." "Wait," he rasped, his voice hoarse and weak, but the way he called me was painfully familiar. In our previous life, he had called me that exact same way. "Thuthu, I like you. Thuthu, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. Thuthu, as long as I can be with you, I'll give up everything I have. Thuthu." My whole body stiffened. Slowly, I turned around. Ethan had already gotten out of bed and approached me, his eyes red and locked on me with desperate intensity. "Why? Why did you lie to me?" he choked. "Lisa, why wouldn't you admit it? I remember now." I was surprised but not afraid. I stepped back, putting distance between us. In Ethan's hollow, chaotic gaze, I spoke calmly. "Ethan Prescott, the biggest regret I had in my past life was marrying you. In this life, now that I have the chance to start over, all I want is to stay as far away from you as possible. Don't." He lunged forward as if to hug me, but I leaned aside, avoiding him easily. A man nearly 6'2", usually composed and restrained, was now crying like a lost child. "I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm so sorry," he sobbed. "I was awful. I never should have looked down on you. I didn't mean it. I'll change. No matter what anyone says about you, I'll stand by you this time. Lisa, please, come back to me. I can't live without you." He grabbed my wrist tightly, tears streaming down his face, voice trembling with pleading desperation. "I once chased after you. I wanted to tell you I wouldn't divorce, but it was too late. You were already under Lily's wheels. I lost you once. I won't let go of you again. Lisa, please, give me a chance to make it up to you." I waited until he finally calmed down, then gently pushed him away. I stepped back, completely stepping out of his world. With the calmest voice I had, I said, "Ethan Prescott, I don't love you anymore." When Lily regained consciousness, I walked into her hospital room and found absolute chaos. "Shut up, all of you, shut up," she screamed. "If I can stand, then I'll stand. Useless doctors. Get out." The moment she saw me, she became even more unhinged. Her face twisted violently as she threw herself off the bed. She hit the floor hard, but she still dragged herself toward me. "Lisa, you ruined my whole life. I'll kill you," she shrieked. The nurses rushed forward and forced her back onto the bed. A doctor turned to me and said quietly, "Her injuries are too severe. She'll need a wheelchair for the rest of her life." After the doctor and nurses left, I simply stood there watching Lily Lanes scream and thrash on the bed. I said nothing, then silently turned away. Even after I had walked far down the hallway, her crazed screams still echoed behind me. Someone like her no longer needed any words from me. I later heard she was formally charged with attempted murder and would soon be in prison. When I stepped out of the hospital, golden sunlight spilled across the road ahead, bright and unmistakably clear. Right then, my phone rang. It was Vera Nolan. "Director Lisa, Louis from France has arrived and wants to meet you. When will you be back?" "I'm on my way now," I answered, quickening my pace. The future stretched wide open before me, radiant and full of promise. Every choice I made had been the right one,